Iran was confident of its upper hand, but in a sudden, overwhelming display of might, the US Navy's response was nothing short of a game changer.
The Strait of Hormuz at 0247 local. A Nimitz-class carrier strike group runs darkened ship, MCON tight, 21 nautical miles off the Iranian coastline. On the bridge of the USS Theodore Roosevelt, the tactical action officer is watching 3 radar tracks bloom on the surface picture, low and fast, racing in from the north at 60 knots. Fast attack craft. Swarming geometry. 8 minutes to weapons release. This is a hypothetical reconstruction, but the systems are real, the doctrine is real, and the math you are about to watch unfold has been rehearsed inside Fifth Fleet for 2 decades. Tehran believes it has the initiative. For the past 72 hours, Iranian leadership has been operating under a single assumption that the choke point belongs to them. Mines drifted into the southbound shipping lane 2 nights ago. A Panamanian-flagged tanker is burning off Bandar Abbas. Coastal anti-ship batteries at Bandar Ijazk have gone hot, their Ghadir and Noor launchers tracking surface contacts at the edge of the strait. Iranian state media is already running the victory script. The Americans, they claim, have been pushed back. They have not been pushed back, they have been positioning. Because while the cameras were pointed at the burning tanker, a Virginia-class submarine was settling onto station 200 feet beneath the thermocline, 41 miles southwest of Larak Island. 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, the US Bulkley and the US Mason, were sliding into a barrier patrol box at the mouth of the strait, and a flight of 4 FA-18F Super Hornets from VFO 103 was already airborne, tanking off a KC-135 over the Gulf of Oman. Weapons hot, call sign Jolly Rogers. The clock the Iranians cannot see is already running. The first thing the US Navy does is something Iran has never been able to counter. It listens. Every emitter on the Iranian coast, every Sea Giraffe radar, every fire control set bolted to a Hudong-class missile boat, every coastal command node from Bushehr down to Chabahar is being mapped in real time by an F-3E Ares flying a racetrack pattern at 31,000 feet, well outside engagement range. Each emission is time-stamped, geolocated, and pushed into the Cooperative Engagement Capability Network. Within 90 seconds, the strike group has a complete electronic picture of the Iranian kill chain. Every node, every frequency, every weakness. This is where most people get the story wrong. They think a US Navy response begins when missiles fly. It does not. It begins hours earlier in silence when the Iranian Air Defense Network unknowingly tells the Americans exactly where to hit it. The 3 fast attack craft closing on the carrier group are Iranian Irk Navy boats, small, fast, expendable, and exactly the kind of platform Tehran built its entire denial doctrine around. They carry Kausar anti-ship missiles, derivatives of the Chinese C-701, with a range of about 15 nautical miles. To launch, they need to close inside that envelope. To survive, they need to launch and turn before the carrier's escorts react. The doctrine is called swarm saturation. Overwhelm the defenders with so many low-value targets that even a perfect defense leaves something through. It is a doctrine built on one assumption, that the Americans will see the boats first and the missiles second. Tonight, that assumption is wrong. At Oro 251, the lead Super Hornet, flying a low cap at 12,000 feet, drops a single M154 joint standoff weapon. The JSOW glides 43 miles, unpowered, almost silent, its GP's inertial guidance package locked onto a coordinate that does not appear on any Iranian map, the Sea Giraffe radar mast at Bandar Ijazk. The warhead is a Blue 111 variant, 500 pounds of high explosive, shaped to fragment downward into the antenna. Impact occurs at 0253:18. The Iranian coastal radar picture goes black across a 140-mile arc. The fast attack craft, still closing on the carrier, lose their over-the-horizon cueing. They are now blind, running on visual and shipboard surface search radars, with a horizon of maybe 12 nautical miles. They do not know the Super Hornets are above. They do not know the Virginia-class submarine has already cycled 4 Tomahawk land attack missiles into its vertical launch tubes. They do not know the clock has just compressed from minutes to seconds. 6 minutes to weapons release becomes irrelevant. because the U.S. Navy is no longer waiting for weapons release. The rules of engagement shifted the moment the Kausar-equipped boats crossed inside 30 miles of the strike group on a steady closure bearing. Understanding fleet defense doctrine, hostile intent has now been established. The decision goes up to the carrier strike group commander. He takes 4 seconds. Weapons free. The Super Hornets roll in from the southwest. 2 ship sections, line abreast. Each aircraft carries 4 AIM-154Cs and a pair of AIM-120D AMRAAMs for self-defense. They do not need to get close. The JSO's standoff range means the Hornets release at 28 nautical miles, well outside the engagement envelope of any Iranian SAM still functioning after the Sea Giraffe went down. 8 weapons in the air. 3 fast attack craft on the surface. The math is not subtle. The first Iranian boat takes a direct hit amidships. The Kausar missile on its launch rail cooks off in the secondary detonation, which is the engineering way of saying the boat ceases to exist as a coherent object. The second boat tries to turn. A Dassault, already in terminal phase, adjusts its glide and impacts 10 meters off the starboard quarter. The hull splits along a weld seam. The third boat, the rearmost, sees the first 2 die and accelerates toward shallow water, trying to reach the protective umbrella of the coastal batteries. The coastal batteries are no longer there. Because at Ho2 54, the Virginia-class submarine, callsign Whiskey, fires its first salvo. 4 Tomahawks break the surface in a controlled launch sequence. Their booster motors, firing in a staggered pattern to avoid mutual interference. They climb, transition to cruise, and drop to terrain following altitude over the Iranian coastline. Each missile is targeted on a coordinate that the F-3E identified less than 7 minutes earlier. The first Tomahawk impacts the Noor anti-ship missile battery at Bandar-e-Jask. The second strikes the command bunker controlling the southern coastal defense sector. The third and fourth go after the Ghadir launchers hidden in revetments south of the airfield. In the span of 120 seconds, the Iranian ability to threaten shipping in the southern strait has been mechanically deleted. This is the part the surface picture never shows. The Iranian doctrine of asymmetric naval warfare, small boats, mines, anti-ship missiles, plausible deniability depends on a layered kill chain. Boats find the target. Coastal radar refines the track. Anti-ship batteries provide the long-range punch. Each layer protects the others. Pull out the radar layer, and the boats are blind. Pull out the missile layer, and the boats are alone. The U.S. Navy did not destroy the swarm. It destroyed the architecture that made the swarm possible. And it did it in under 9 minutes. But the Iranians still have one card on the table: the mines. At 0301, the bridge of the US Theodore Roosevelt receives a flash report from the US Sentry. An Avenger-class mine countermeasures ship operating 37 miles to the west. Sonar contacts. Multiple, drifting moored influence mines in the southbound shipping lane, the same lane the strike group is scheduled to transit at 0420. The mines are likely M52 rocket-propelled mines, Chinese origin, capable of launching an underwater rocket at a passing hull from a depth of 200 meters. A single M52 strike on a destroyer can disable propulsion, flood 3 compartments, and put the ship out of action for 18 months. A strike on the carrier is unthinkable in a different category. This is the hidden vulnerability. This is what Tehran was actually betting on. Because the entire Iranian operation, the burning tanker, the radar pings, the fast attack craft swarm, was never about winning a surface engagement. It was about funneling. About forcing the carrier strike group into a known transit corridor where the mines were waiting. The Iranian leadership did not need to sink the Roosevelt. They needed to damage one escort, badly in international waters, in a way that put global insurance markets into freefall and oil futures into the stratosphere. A single mine strike at 04020 would have done it. The U.S. Navy understood this 36 hours ago, which is why the MH-60S Seahawks from HSC-7 have been flying continuous airborne mine neutralization system sorties since dusk, towing AX-20 sonars through the projected mine field. Which is why the Sentry was repositioned 2 days early. which is why the carrier's transit window is now being moved, not delayed, moved to a corridor cleared by odd divers operating from a forward-staged expeditionary sea base, the US Louis B. Puller, sitting quietly in the Gulf of Oman. The Iranian plan required the Americans to follow the script. The Americans rewrote it. By 0314, the surface picture has changed completely. The 3 fast attack craft are gone. The Southern Coastal Defense Network is a sequence of secondary fires visible from 12 miles out. The minefield has been bypassed, not breached. And the Iranian leadership is now facing a problem they did not plan for. They have already committed publicly. State media has already declared victory. The tanker is still burning. They cannot quietly back down. They have to escalate, or they have to absorb a humiliation in front of their own population. This is the impossible decision point, and every option on the Iranian side has been pre-calculated by the Americans. If Tehran launches a ballistic missile salvo from the mainland, the US Mason, equipped with the Aegis Baseline 9 combat system and SM-3 Block IA interceptors, engages on the ascent phase. If they launch suicide drones, Shahed 136s in waves, the carrier's air wing of F-35Cs and Super Hornets, supplemented by RIM 162 evolved Sea Sparrow missiles and the Phalanx Block 1B close-in weapon system. Layers of defense the drones cannot saturate at the scale Tehran has available. If they attempt a submarine attack with the Ghadir-class midget sub, the carriers screen 2 Burks, an Independence-class littoral combat ship, and the Virginia underneath has already mapped every probable launch box. There is no good move on the board. There is only the choice of which loss to accept. This is what most analyses of Iranian naval doctrine miss. The doctrine looks aggressive on paper. Small boats, missiles, mines, drones, plausible deniability, asymmetric cost imposition. The American response looks expensive and conventional. A carrier strike group costs roughly $13 billion to field and another $6.5 million a day to operate. An Iranian fast attack craft costs less than $2 million. A Kausar missile costs maybe $250,000. The cost exchange math seems to favor Iran. It does not, because the cost exchange math only works if Iran gets to choose when and where the engagement happens. The moment the Americans pre-position, pre-map, pre-target, and pre-decide, the asymmetric advantage collapses. A $2 million boat is still a $2 million boat when it is on fire. A $250,000 missile that never leaves the rail is a total loss. The U.S. Navy did not defeat Iran's doctrine by spending more. It defeated it by being there first. By 0340, the Roosevelt is transiting the strait through the cleared corridor, screened tight, ready alerts up, MCON now broken because there is nothing left to hide from. The Iranian coast is silent. The radars are dark. The boats are gone. The minefield is a footnote. The strike group continues east into the Gulf of Oman, where a second Burke-class destroyer, the Uskarni, has already taken station for the next phase. Because the U.S. Navy response is not one strike, it is a sequence. And the sequence is still running. In the final accounting, the engagement lasted 46 minutes from the first JSO release to the carrier's clearance of the choke point. Iranian losses in this hypothetical reconstruction would include 3 Irq Navy fast attack craft, 2 NOR coastal anti-ship missile batteries, the Sea Giraffe radar at Bandar-e-Jask, a southern sector command bunker, and an estimated 60 to 90 personnel across the targeted nodes. American losses, 0. American aircraft expended, 8 JSOWs, 4 Tomahawks, no aircrew at risk inside Iranian engagement envelopes. But the accounting that matters is not in hulls or warheads, it is in doctrine. Iran's naval strategy is built on the assumption that the United States will be slow, reactive, and politically constrained. That the carrier will sail into the strait the way a cruise ship sails into Miami. That the swarm will get the first move, that the mines will not be found until the keels start cracking. The strategy works against an opponent that does not know it is being targeted. It does not work against an opponent that has been preparing for this exact engagement since 1988, when the US Samuel B. Roberts struck an Iranian mine and the U.S. Navy responded with Operation Praying Mantis, sinking half the Iranian surface fleet in a single afternoon. The lesson of Praying Mantis was supposed to be permanent. The lesson is this: when the United States Navy decides to respond, the engagement is not a fight. It is a demonstration. The Iranian leadership, in this scenario, would wake up on the morning of 0247 plus 6 hours to discover that their entire southern coastal defense network has been deleted. Their carrier-killer doctrine has been exposed as a paper construct, and the strait they claim to control is now hosting a routine American transit. That is what it looks like when Iran thinks it is winning, and the United States Navy proves them wrong. The deeper truth is that this scenario, hypothetical as it is, sits on top of capabilities that are entirely real. The Aegis combat system is real. The Tomahawk Block V is real. The Virginia-class submarines are real, and they are out there right now. The Cooperative Engagement Capability Network, the EP-3E and its successor the EP-3 replacement programs, the airborne mine neutralization systems, the layered air defense from SM-6 down to Phalanx, all real, all fielded, all integrated. The doctrine that ties them together has been refined across 40 years of presence operations in exactly this body of water. Iran builds its navy to make the United States blink. The United States builds its navy so that blinking is irrelevant. One side is optimizing for the headline. The other is optimizing for the outcome. And in the strait, at 0340 local, on a night that will never officially happen, the outcome is a darkened carrier moving east at 15 knots, escorts in formation, flight deck cooling, the Iranian coast falling behind in radar shadow. No press conference. No statement. No flag waving. Just the quiet, mechanical certainty of a navy that has done this drill, in this water, against this opponent, more times than the opponent can count. That is the verdict. Not who shot first. Not who claimed victory on television. The verdict is who was still in position when the sun came up. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of how the U.S. Navy actually responds when Iran tries to force the choke point, stay with this stream. The next scenario in tonight's lineup goes deeper into the carrier's air wing math, the Tomahawk sequencing, and what happens when Tehran chooses to escalate instead of absorb. Real systems. Real doctrine. Real consequences. And if you want more tactical breakdowns like this one, subscribe now and tell us in the comments which engagement you want reconstructed next.